Welcome everyone to the meeting today. Please note this will be a live broadcast meeting, will be available to view on the Combined Authority YouTube channel. Please ensure using your microphones when speaking. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
We've got apologies from Councillor Gareth Dadd and Councillor Annabelle Wilkinson is substituting, and apologies from Councillor Claire Douglas and Councillor Katie Lomas is substituting. And we've also had apologies from Rachel Antonelli, the Monitoring Officer, and Andrew Leeming, the Head of Strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that. Item number 2 is minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of February. Members content that the minutes are correct of this time. Agreed on the minutes, members on that? Yeah, happy? Yeah, thank you much. Yeah. Item 3, any declarations of interest?
Thank you, Mayor. Item 16, governance matters, concerns remuneration or not for the Deputy Mayor, and as I'm currently Deputy Mayor, it's appropriate that I leave the meeting at that point. Thank you,
Councillor Kilbane. Councillor Wilkinson.
Hi. Item 10, just declaring an interest that I'm the portfolio holder for adult learning skills. Thank you. For North Yorkshire, yes, sorry. Better.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor. Okay, happy. Item number 4 is public participation. We have received 2 public questions. Can I ask the Principal Democratic Service Officer to read the first one out? Thank you.
Thank you. The first question is a public statement received from Gwen Swinburne. May I first ask, in the interest of what little accountability exists in the new combined authority, that the Mayor be required to write for the agenda a written report on his activities and that he attach any serious back to office reports so that the combined authority, as well as citizens, can hold him to account. I have tried for some months now to ascertain why the combined authority is failing both finance and transparency codes. This came to a head with the announcement of this 32k spend on the appalling motorway logo. It caused me to revisit once again the basic governance systems that should be in place either by law and/or code. Whilst I accept this is a new authority and the monitoring officer and governance staff are more than helpful as well as overloaded, a number of core governance pillars seem completely absent from public view and I fear may be absent altogether. The most serious of these include no apparent decision records and no executive or officer decision records, including on contracts. After an occasional minute on an odd item at the Combined Authority meeting, everything at face disappears into a black hole. There appear no decision sessions either. The scheme of delegations is not sufficiently articulated to address the delegations attached to each officer. However, the law and the Constitution is clear on the decisions that have to be recorded and published, section B19 and 20, and they must be published on the website. I haven't found any a year in. I have asked before. The £500 payment system is a tangle of occasional confusing detail clearly extracted from some form of spreadsheet and put in an unusable and unfathomable PDF contrary to code. It has not even been updated since September 2024, contrary to code. I won't even start on the transparency codes or the hidden in plain sight, much delayed accounts inspection statutory duty. I couldn't bring myself to burden the staff this time. In summary, despite efforts from the staff, we are almost at the end of the first full financial year, where multiple core systems do not appear to meet legal minimum. This outrageous 32k contract was the straw that broke this camel's back. If we are throwing that money at such a minor item, what else are we doing? I raise this here as it is you 5 that are responsible, and in multiple key areas that we appear to be running in an unlawful manner. May I ask that you address this urgently? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gwen, for your question there. Your comments have been noted and a full response will be provided by officers and published alongside the minutes of this meeting. Second question we have from Flick Williams, who I believe is joining us online. Can you hear us there, Flick?
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you very much. In your own time, whenever you're ready. Thank you very much.
This Combined Authorities Inactivity Trailblazer, some observations. From Appendix 1, page 2, I quote, "Currently, too many people are excluded from the labour market due to economic inactivity." No, many disabled people, chronically ill people and our carers are excluded from the labour market by barriers to both entry and remaining in the labour market. The City of York has adopted the social model of disability, which focuses on the systems, services, structures and environments which exclude disabled people from participation. In contrast, the combined authority in relation to this trailblazer shows every sign of operating from an individual or medical model of disability. You have sought to ask stakeholders for their expertise on disabled people's lives and throughout refer to us using the somewhat dehumanising language of your inactives. In which part of the process were disabled people asked, what are the barriers to your getting or staying in work? If you had, you may have learned about barriers to work, such as inaccessible, unreliable, irregular transport, lack of accessible housing, barriers to obtaining mobility aids, barriers to obtaining social care support, and barriers to obtaining timely health care, including that for mental health or diagnosis of neurodivergence. But like so many schemes before it, the Inactivity Trailblazer appears to be focusing on the demand side, never the supply side. Where are all the employers willing to employ us, ready to make reasonable adjustments, offer the flexibility to employees to manage our impairment issues, health appointments or caring responsibilities? Almost every disabled person in work that I know reports regular friction with their employer over the provision of reasonable adjustments, which is in itself not conducive to good health and well-being. And what of those of us repeatedly reassessed by the benefit system as unfit for work and placed in either the sport group or the limited capability for work group? We suspect, given the rhetoric from the Prime Minister and other cabinet members about there will be no life on benefits, we face a bleak future. If the forthcoming spring statement does in fact cut benefit entitlement, you will not starve us into work, you will simply impoverish us further and drive us toward destitution, with the resulting health and care crises that will be a financial cost elsewhere in the system. Or perhaps the ultimate hope is just like in Canada with its medical assistance in dying programme, which now has 50% of its applicants applying on economic grounds. We will soon have the option to check out if we cannot bear it any longer. The Labour government's flawed approach is in failing to join the dots, removing commitments to accessible housing from the National Planning Policy Framework and to an accessible rail network from Great British Railways, together with cuts to the Access to Work programme, tells the real story. Rising impairment owing to an ageing demographic as the retirement age increases and an ongoing mass disabling event of infectious disease are the problem, and this 10 million scheme plainly not the solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. We will bring an answer to that question in agenda item 11 from Andy Kerr, if that's okay. Thank you very much for your time and your question there today. Item 5 is Mayor's update. The public and I and members of our table expect devolution to deliver for them and the people of York and North Yorkshire. The agenda today is the largest that we've had since I was elected, and it's a testament to all the work that's been done by members around this table, but also teams back in the Combined Authority and both local authorities, York and North Yorkshire. To bring about true change, it does take time, but I believe that the work we've done has showcased how much emphasis we are putting on supporting the people of York and North Yorkshire, and also the testament to engagement that this authority has had externally in with government on a seemingly daily basis. The items on our agenda today start the journey for crucial pieces of work in York and North Yorkshire to fix our broken bus services, build affordable and social housing that we so badly need, support our communities and deliver on the unprecedented investment in skills that our region will be receiving this year. So I just want to, personally from me, thank everyone who's put a huge amount of work, not just in the last couple of weeks, but in the last 9 months and longer, and long may it continue, and long may we see agendas this packed with the amount of great work that's been delivered so far. So I thank everyone for that. Agenda item 6 is the finance update for, in brackets, Q3. Mike Russell, the report of Director and Resources, please, Mike.
Thanks, Chair. So the report item 6 provides an update on financial performance to Q3 2024-25, which, as the Chair said, covers the 9 months to 31st of December. Overall expenditure lies within budget parameters, and there's no expenditure control issues identified at this point. Core budgets are expected to generate a net underspend to carry into 2025-26. due primarily to staff savings, as the initial budget assumed a full establishment from day one and the authority has built itself over time, higher than budgeted treasury management income, and lower than budgeted combined authority set-up and election costs than planned. At the programme level, the combined authority anticipates to carry forward 10.4 million of this year's allocated funding into next year for earmarked programmes, principally due to the timing difference between defrayment from government and delivery of those programmes. And the two major programmes where that is impacted are the Brownfield Housing Programme, which is discussed later in this agenda, and the Net Zero project. Both programmes are currently fully committed and expected to deliver fully. At that point, I'll leave it open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Mike. Any questions for Mike on agenda item 6 to finance update? No. Are we happy for a proposer, seconder, and move to vote on that? A proposer and a seconder, and vote on that then? Thank you very much. Excellent work. Thanks, Mike, for that. Agenda item 7 is the allocation of funding streams for bus and highways maintenance. This is a report of the interim head of transport, Mike Scott. Mike, if I can hand over to you, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you. So yeah, this report details two streams of funding, transport funding that we've received in the combined authority over the last couple of months. One for local highways maintenance funding. This is a continuation of a long-standing funding stream for planned maintenance of the local road networks in both York and North Yorkshire. So the money received has been allocated on the basis of previous allocations when that was dealt with directly, when the money was directly awarded to the local highway authorities. There is an uplift sum available to us for 25-26. That again has been allocated using the same formula, and there are certain conditions on that uplift sum, and the work that I've done with the two councils, highway officers in the two councils, I think gives a lot of certainty that the requirements that the department will have for that uplift will be satisfied, and that funding will be made available. The second grant then relates to buses, the DFT bus grant, as perhaps previously known under the previous government as BSIP money. 4 streams of funding here: some revenue support grant, capital grant, and also wrapped up in that is again a long-standing payment, often called BSOG, bus service operator grant, some of which is payable to the local authority where supported bus services are operated. So again, we've sat with two council officers from the two councils and developed an agreed allocation of that funding. In terms of the revenue support grant, which is the lion's share, largely that is a continuation of what has gone previous years with the funding that North Yorkshire and City of York have received, as I say, in previous years. There is a little bit of extra money available, and we've used that to spend some extra money on Moorsbus and Dalesbus, and some supported bus services in the Harrogate and Pateley Bridge area. And the capital grant is available. It's a short-term grant for 1 year. That's available for things that can be delivered within 25-26. And again, officers have worked with me to develop that programme. So recommendations are set out in item 11 of the report to allocate that money. Hand back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mike, and thank you to the transport team even in the combined authority and officers in both CYC and NYC for the collaborative work on pulling that piece of work together. It has obviously been a huge piece there for us. Any questions or comments from members at all for Mike on that at all? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Les?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I was going to ask about the capital grant, but you've reassured me, Mike, with the answer that I was seeking about how you'd arrived at that figure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councillor Kilbane.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mike, for the report, and also to the local authorities for all the work that I know has gone on within the local authorities in coming to these figures. I mean, there is an uplift here which is to be welcomed. It means that we will be able to do more than we previously could do before we were a combined authority, and it is one of the benefits that the combined authority is bringing to the whole region. It's good to see us working so closely with the local authorities. I know there was some fear when the combined authority came in that it would come and sweep all before it, but not at all, because the experts are on the ground who know what they're doing, and it's great to be working alongside them. Clearly, as time moves on, and we'll see later on in the agenda as we move towards a more strategic transport programme for the region, then hopefully that relationship will grow stronger and richer, and will deliver for everybody. Particularly good to see the money going into buses, and we will continue to lobby for more of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. If there's no more questions there, can I seek a proposer and a seconder and move to the vote on that? Yeah, seconder. And a vote on that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. Item 8, strategic transport framework. Again, over to you, Mike, again, please, for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. So, yeah, this report fronts a document that we've put together within the combined authority, again very much hand in hand with officers from the transport planning teams of both councils, and using the resources of the documentation that already exists and adopted by both City of York and North Yorkshire Council. So the strategic transport framework sets out at a fairly high level what we would like to do in terms of some of the objectives and mayoral policy and priorities for transport. It's not a statutory document at this stage. I'll say something about a statutory document in a moment, but it is a positioning statement that gives us a sure footing in terms of responding to all the many requests around transport that we receive within the combined authority, and obviously within the two councils as well. So just very quickly, it sets out some context in terms of transport, links that context to other priorities within the combined authority, and then sets out some practical steps and policies for moving transport forward. And then at the end, there's some actions for me and my team and the wider combined authority, and a delivery plan for putting those things in place. So again, the recommendation is set out at 11 to adopt the strategic transport framework. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I think this is obviously the first really big significant step in the journey to obviously improving bus service across York and North Yorkshire, and setting out that next steps for the combined authority and building that collaboration, as we were just touched on there, with CYC and NYC to build that system that we need to improve transport right across the region. Do you want to come in there, Joe? Or I'll just bring you on there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to draw people's attention really to something that isn't in the framework that I think would be useful to factor in going forward, which is the work of the Road Safety Partnership around transport, which is a collaboration between the Blue Light Services and the local authorities, and just the importance of the work of that partnership because of the impact that any and every road death has on both Blue Light Services and obviously the victims and families of everyone who is affected by it. It's extremely welcome. I've seen this week around North Yorkshire's announcements around speed limits around schools. That's really welcome progress to hear, although I have to say I was slightly disturbed to hear that you might still have some schools where they are sitting on 60-mile-an-hour limits outside those schools, which I think is extremely concerning. I know that that the work is underway on that, and that is really welcome. And anything that we can do in terms of partnership working both around speed limit, but also around enforcement opportunities from the police, around areas of concern. Really happy to pick those up through the Road Safety Partnership. I know that in York, obviously it's a very different geography, and I know that they are further ahead in terms of 20-mile-an-hour zones outside schools. But I've certainly, in the work I've been doing on this over the last few months, I've had a number of interactions with parishes across North Yorkshire, which I've raised with Councillor Les and others previously, and certainly there are issues there both around enforcement, which I am happy to pick up through the Road Safety Partnership, but also around concerns on speed limits, which I would be welcome being able to raise here, but also just to ensure really that that road safety is being properly reflected in any transport frameworks and strategies for the future. It's an issue that some of the many 750 parishes across North Yorkshire raise on a regular basis, as I'm sure councillors in North Yorkshire know. I'm also aware of the work that the Selby MP has been doing in this area, and the correspondence that he's been having around pedestrian crossings and safety improvements at crossings and traffic calming in the Selby district. But for me, most of all, this is about trying to make sure that we work collaboratively through that partnership and that we reflect that in the work of the combined authority, so that we make our roads safer for everybody in our region. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Joe, for that. Any questions or comments for Mike on the strategic transport framework at all? Mr. Kilbane.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to echo the comments from the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, when I was Transport Executive Member in York, it was actually the villagers that lobbyist hardest for 20-mile-an-hour zones, and we put one in as a trial. That trial must be about up now in Bishopthorpe. Actually, at the request of the parish council and the local councillor, who happened to be a Conservative councillor, but the village wanted it. As far as I'm aware, that trial has been successful. As I know, our chief executive lives in the village, indeed, and he's nodding his head. I must say, when I first approached it, it went from, I think it still does, it went from a 40 to a 20, and I had to slam on my brakes. And I was just, while I was thinking, who the hell did this? I was thinking, oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah, I remember that. So it has been quite a popular thing in the villages. So just to echo those comments, really, but and also thank Mike again for the work on this. I think we all get very frustrated with the rate of progress, don't we, of getting things done. But there are certain processes we have to go through. So, you know, we have to get to having a strategy for the whole of the region that's in a document that Mike said he'd touch on. Statutory documents, this isn't, but you know, it paves the way for the statutory documents that will come forward, that will get us the funding that we need. So that's why such visionary things in here, such as cable cars, no mention of them, which obviously is very disappointing to me personally, but it's about things that we can actually put together and get on with sooner rather than later. So very welcome, but very much a first step in terms of that journey of improving strategic transport for everybody across the region. So very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Kilbane. Can I move to a proposer and a seconder to move to vote on that as well, please? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mike. Item 8 is the approval of York and North Yorkshire's growth plan consultation draft. Director of Economy, Andy Kirk, and I'll lean over to you. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, thank you. Really pleased to bring the draft local growth plan to the combined authority today. It's part of an ongoing process we've had with government, a huge amount of involvement from the local authorities and stakeholders to allow us to develop an agreed plan to drive regional growth, and one that talks to the national growth priorities as well. But we play our part in helping the UK's economic growth. So this has been developed on the growth priorities that were agreed by the combined authority in October 2024, and the plan really focuses on where our competitive advantage sectors are, the areas where we anticipate and government have agreed that we've got the best chance to drive growth regionally. And it also looks at the specialisms that we have and all the collateral that will help us to deliver that. Government feedback has been really positive on this process and reflected well on us as a new combined authority. And this draft local plan was taken to the combined authority business board, and they've endorsed it as well. So the consultation that we're seeking now to do is just to help us refine the plan further before we bring it back, hopefully, to July combined authority for approval. So the recommendation in 10.1 is that the Combined Authority approves the growth plan for draft consultation.
Thank you very much, Andy. I think it's fair to say, as you touched on there, the work from yourself, Andrew, Kate, and others in the team has been enormous on developing this plan. There's been a huge amount of work, and not only in amongst the Combined Authority and the two local authorities, but the engagement we've had with external stakeholders and bodies as well has been huge. So thank you and the team for everything you've put into that and so far. Any questions or comments from members for Andy on that at all? Is that coming in there, councillors?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, just to echo your comments about the work that's gone into it and the fact that it is a good plan, and just to seek some sort of reassurance that if we do have a period of further engagement, it's not actually going to slow down our shared ambition to actually get on with things which you were speaking about yesterday and skipped in the meeting hours at.
Yeah, I believe, and I'll let Andy touch on this as well. But you know, this is not going to affect the timeline or speed of process. Just making sure we're getting that further, wider consultation. So we're bringing all members on board. So it's not seen that we're doing two, we're doing very much with. But obviously, we are a big patch for a lot of stakeholders. We want to make sure engage with. That's somewhere about right, Andy?
Yeah, just to echo that point, it's built into the process, the timeline. It wouldn't delay it, but we're absolutely aware that, you know, we're not the key economic drivers of growth as a combined authority. It's the businesses, it's stakeholders, it's the role of local authorities. So it's making sure everybody's unified behind the growth plan.
Thank you very much, Andy and Carl, for your question and response. Poser and seconder and move to vote on that item. Yeah, but thank you very much. Thank you, Andy, for that. Item 10, the 2025-2026 UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Report of this will be from Liz. Sorry, we'll lead over to this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the report presents the recent announcement of UK Shared Prosperity Fund for the coming year 2025-26. This follows a 3-year programme that we're just coming to the end of, and the new government has committed to another year. This will very much be a transition year, because obviously there's a huge range of government policy that's still in formation and development. The previous item, for example, about growth plan and what that leads to is yet to become clear at a national policy level, and obviously then we'll work on that as to what that translates into for the region. But for now, we've been allocated 8.7 million, just over. In the report, it sets out that there's 3 million of capital and 5.8 million of revenue. As we've mentioned, it's a 1-year transitional interim programme. But the difference from the previous iteration of the programme is that the Combined Authority, now it's in existence, will be the lead local authority for delivering this fund. However, because of the success of the 2 previous programmes that have been delivered through North Yorkshire Council and City of York Council, we've worked incredibly closely, not least in the existing programmes, but in developing the proposals that we've presented in the report now. We're aiming to provide succession and continuity, build on successes. So the report highlights that there have been 2 pieces of evaluation work going on. We've been able to take learnings from that evaluation review and build those into the programme for how it moves forward. There are 3 themes set out in the table in the report: for community and place, support for local business and people and skills. That's largely reflective of what we've had previously, so that's helpful. And the appendices to the report show the provisional breakdown under each of those headings. I say we haven't defined the detail under each of the breakdowns yet, but we will continue to co-design and involve partners in what that looks like moving forward. One of the things we've tried to do is work with third-party partners that are delivering at the moment to try and maintain continuity, and so that we don't have a drop-off at the end of March before we can start the new programme of activity. As far as possible, we are trying to be seamless in that delivery, and we'll involve those, say, third-party partners in the process moving forward. Just wanted to highlight a couple of changes. The Multiply programme, which is the numeracy programme that was running as a separate fund previously, is now included in the main fund programme. programme. It doesn't have its own allocation of money, but we have made an allocation against the continuation of that activity, and we'll work with partners to, as I say, provide that succession along that impactful programme. The other one is the Rural England Prosperity Fund, which was a separate allowance in previous years. And we hadn't had any word on this until very literally in the last few days. We're now aware that there will be a forthcoming announcement for Rural England Prosperity Fund. That will be an additional to the detail set out in this report. We know there's 33 million nationally, but we don't know how that breaks down to local level yet. Nor are we clear quite on who the accountable body will be for that funding, but say we await further announcements. The report highlights the need to look at governance. Under the arrangements between both local authorities running their own funds, they have their own what's called local partnership group to oversee a range of local stakeholders and anchor organisations that were able to preside over the direction and strategic deployment of the programme. It's proposed that there will be one local partnership group for the whole York and North Yorkshire area. That's aimed that there were a number of crossover members between those two groups that sat on both of those previously for the separate geographies. So obviously that they will now be able to sit on the one. We feel that one group will give good levels of transparency between both areas and how the funds are being distributed across the piece equitably, and also how the governance of the funds works across the both areas. We are still working on outputs and outcomes, but there are obviously a whole range of those that have been attributed to the programme already, and we will continue to look at those in more detail given more time. And another thing just to highlight before we take any questions is that the award includes an allowance of 4% for programme management of the overall programme, and the activities can include for project delivery staff. So we don't anticipate any additional resource requirements. We can continue to deliver with the existing resources that we have. So I'd just like to update again that we've had a memorandum of understanding from government that's just arrived in the last few days as well. That needs to be signed subject to decisions today by the 31st of March, and then we will move that programme of activity forward as quickly as possible. So I'll close by thanking both officers and members of the partner authorities for the incredibly fast rate at which this has been turned around, because I think the announcements only came through literally just before Christmas, and then they were confirmed just after. So it's been a huge achievement to be able to present the report today in an agreed format. So so the recommendations obviously set out in the report, and any questions I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for that. And thank you for your work on that. And I just echo your statement there about how this is a huge piece of work, incredibly quickly, and again another opportunity to show that engagement with both CYC and NYC, the work that's been done previously on SPF, and showing that joint approach now, how we can work collectively going forward. So this has been a mammoth piece of work and turned around very quickly. So thank you, Liz and your team and officers in CYC and NYC for that. Any questions or comments on that before we move on? Oh, sorry, Emma, sorry, yeah, let's come in there.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Liz. This is a huge piece of work. I want to commend you for that. You've worked so hard, and the team and everybody working with it. And I'm really pleased to see that although Multipliers is going to finish, that you're going to continue it in a different guise, because it's so important. And now you're including that digital aspect and the English language, which will be wonderful for our adult learners who are trying to get back into education and then continue thereon. And we've had some really success stories, which you have in York. I know we've been to an event with Paul and seen how those learners are progressing. So I'm really pleased to see that. Thank you very much. And look forward to see what comes out of the future. Thank you.
Would you like to come in there as well, councillors?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mayor. I mean, when I first saw the papers, I had some concerns about the future, because it's a change, and we've had 3 years of shared prosperity funding, which has been successful in North Yorkshire. I can't speak for York, but certainly for North Yorkshire it has been successful. But I'm reassured by the introduction that Liz has given to this, especially the words about building on success. We had a celebration event a week ago today in Harrogate, and Andy came through to it to see what we were doing. And I think over those 3 years, as I say, we've had success, but we've also learned some lessons going forward. So I'm reassured with the changes that we're going to introduce, and I think it will be it'll be good for us going forward. That's what I want to say.
I think we have spoken about this a lot in the office, actually, about how we build on the previous success we've already had in York and North Yorkshire. We're not looking to reinvent the wheel, throw everything out and start again. If we've got some successes, some opportunities, things we can build on, then we need to be making the most of that, because that's going to help with speed, but obviously you've got those people, those organisations who know the patch really well that we cannot possibly know as well as they do. The opportunity we have is to have that joint approach. So if there's things that have happened in York or North Yorkshire that have worked really well, opportunity to bring that together and actually roll it out across the board, and that's the great strength about having the combined authority, having this SPF under one roof. Would you like to come in there as well, Councillor Cobain?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I gave my apologies for the event last Friday. I really wanted to be there, but I had to be at the Convention of the North instead. So yeah, if I get sacked as Deputy Mayor in item 16 when I'm out of the room, I'll be able to attend next time, which would be nice. And it did look like a great event. And I know that UK SPF has been very successful in York as well. I just really wanted to say thanks to the team, Liz, because we really appreciate the over and above that your staff have had to go to in order to get this to where it is today. Because obviously it's our decision today that enables this money to be spent, and we have a myriad of organisations across the region who are waiting for this decision so that they can get on. So, you know, they really needed this decision 2 months ago so they could make sure they retain their staff, or if they needed to advertise. But our partner organisations, and a big thanks to them in a whole range of sectors across the region, have been patient. And it's not been easy, because in all of these processes there are winners and there are losers. But, you know, we've been able to have those conversations in a very sort of grown up and mature way, because we're all concentrated on making sure this money gets to where it needs to go, which is why I'd be very happy to propose this recommendation when the time comes, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kilbane. That time is now. I think if there's no more questions yet. So we have a proposal and a seconder. To vote there. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Liz, for that. Item 11, which is the Get Written Working Trailblazer report from the Director of Economy, Andy Kerr. Andy, can I leave that to you? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is another programme which needs to be delivered, which is significant and at pace. So it's a 1 year, £10 million inactivity programme awarded from the Department for Work and Pensions. We only got the guidance in January. We've got a year to spend it. There's going to be a huge amount of activity taking place already to get to this point, and how we take it forward. 2 phases to that. The first is the preparation of a delivery plan, of which is a phase that we've been in, and phase 2 will be the delivery starting in April. As part of phase 1, there's been a series of workshops with stakeholders, and there's been over 100 partners already engaged, including the local authorities, DWP, health, voluntary sectors. Just to pick up on the public speaker's comment at the start of the meeting, a lot of that referenced national government policy, and obviously this is a government programme which we're working to the guidelines on, but just focusing in what we can do and what is within our control as a combined authority, just to reassure there has been a huge number of advocacy groups involved in helping to shape the process. We had a workshop on the 14th of February, which was attended by many of those groups, but it does also build on the work that the Combined Authority have done historically, with programmes working with disabled people to understand the barriers to employment and staying in work. So that has all gone into the development of this plan. And there is also social model of disability as part of the new Connect to Work programme, which is a programme which will be launching later this year, but we're just waiting for final guidance again from DWP on that. So hopefully that reassures. Just moving on to this report, we've got to submit the delivery plan to government next week. The delivery plan includes three key priority areas of activity. So firstly is joining up systems and services, including work, health, skills interchange, strengthening relationships across health, work and skills partners. It's got a good work priority, which is about creating good workplaces which respond to some of the issues that the public speaker raised earlier, ensuring preventative measures, supporting those in work at the risk of becoming inactive, and then crucially engaging with those who are economically inactive. And they're the three key strands of work. So to enable us to be able to submit that plan to government, to get it approved and to get delivering in 25-26, the recommendation set out at 2.1 is for delegated authority to myself in consultation with the Mayor to submit the plan next week.
Thank you very much, Andy. Yeah, I just welcome the government investment of this money into our region, which we wouldn't have had before. So it's a great opportunity to show how we can deliver this money into much needed parts of our region and really show confidence to the government as well that we are capable of bringing this together again out there. And again, it's an opportunity, like we touched on the SPF, is to really use those parts of those organisations that we already have really good relationships to get this out of the door very quickly, because frustratingly so things like this do take a bit of time. So the quicker we can get this out and the more we can work with those organisations already delivering work in this sphere will be great to see. Any questions or comments for Andy on that at all? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Cobain?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I thought the public speaker made a good point about the language. Inactives is not a great word when describing people, really. I was watching a film the other night about cyberborgs, and like inactives, I think, was when they were turned off or something. It's kind of, if we could change the language, that would be good. And it is very welcome. I mean, 10 million quid, it's a lot of money to get out the door in a year, but I'm sure we can do it. I think Liz has just trailblazed the way for the Trailblazer programme, really, in terms of how we can turn things around very quickly. My question, really, Andy, is the scope within the criteria that we've got that comes with this money from the government, is the scope for the money to be used to challenge some employer attitudes and to offer assistance to change the way that some employees operate? And I'm thinking back in particular to years ago when the old Disability Discrimination Act came in. I was a trade union official at the time, and we would go into employers and the law says you've got to do this and you've got to do that, and they'd be like, oh, this is terrible, this terrible Labour government, what's it doing to us? And then as soon as the changes were made to make the workplace more accessible, user-friendly, they realised that it was better for everybody, not just disabled people, and actually their businesses became more productive. But it was a journey that they had to go on, and they weren't always willing to go on that journey at the start. And I'm just wondering if this programme gives us any flexibility to be able to challenge employers where necessary, but work with them to bring about the changes that they will need to bring about in order to enable people to work.
Yeah, so just to pick up on that, yes, there is that flexibility and strand running through it. Obviously, this is a Trailblazer scheme, and the key being there that is to do things differently and move away from how they've been done to drive new outcomes. And yeah, to reassure again, within the delivery plan, one of the key priority areas is a good work priority, which is about creating those good workplaces and tackling the barriers that we've learned from disabled people to employment and staying in employment, and making sure that we're working with businesses to remove those.
Thank you very much, Andy, for your response there. Any more questions or comments, or do you want to move to a proposer and seconder and a vote? Do you have a proposer? Seconder, thanks, Pete. And a move to a vote there? Thank you very much, Andy. I wouldn't go anywhere just yet, Andy, because you're coming back in. Item 12, Combined Authority Housing Update, again, Head of Strategy from Andy Kerr. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So this is an update on the housing element of the Combined Authority and the work we've been doing. It's a key priority within the economic framework and the Mayor's mission, and it's a shared priority with government. One of the key delivery models that devolution has opened up is an agreement to have a strategic place partnership with Homes England, and the first stage within that will be defining objectives and producing an investment plan, and really help us to grow homes, create new houses, and really focus on place as well, so that we're creating communities, not just houses. The partners who will be involved in that is still to be determined, but it'll be a partnership between Homes England, the Combined Authority, both local authorities, and there may be others as well that we can include within that. And we'll draw in other key strategic partners as and when required. So this is something that, you know, other combined authorities are doing, and it's a key critical piece of us moving forward our housing agenda. The report also updates on the Brownfield Housing Fund, where we've currently allocated all funds and some additional mayoral investment fund to support that. And a good proportion, a high proportion of those are now moving into delivery as well. So we're starting to see delivery on the ground. There is an expectation of further funds. So this paper again wants to set out that we go out for another call for sites, make sure that we're building that long-term pipeline, and we've got investable propositions moving forward for whenever funding does become available, so we can move quickly and at pace. So the recommendations set out in 2.1 are around approving the establishment of a strategic place partnership with Homes England, approving a third call for brownfield housing investment sites to build that pipeline, and to note the progress that's taken place today on delivering the combined authority's ambitions on housing.
Thank you, Andy. And I think we have already done a great piece of work on the brownfield, and a lot of that is down to Liz in particular on that, and how we've been able to call those sites in and get that money out to support those sites. And again, it's a really big first step into creating that relationship with Homes England to meet the urgent needs and addressing the challenge that we have in housing right across the region. Actually, as we know, geographically it's very challenging in our region compared to other regions as well, and we know the extreme costs of home ownership across Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, and the lack of those affordable and social housing in particular. So the more work we can do on that to tackle that great need and challenge we have in our region, I'm more than welcome. Any questions or comments on this at all from members? Would you like to come in there, Councillor Les?
First of all, just say we welcome the report, so thank you for that. But the strategic place partnership, will that be officers, or will there be a member involvement in that as well?
So my understanding of them typically elsewhere, they've been officer led by combined authority, but certainly we can report back regularly on progress.
Any other questions or comments? Or no? Oh, yes, would you like to go in there, Councillor Coburn?
Just thanks again for the report, and I think this is an area where the combined authority really did hit the ground running, and it's great to see those houses going up. I haven't had a mayor for a year yet, and the houses are already going up, so that is great to see. More power to the elbow. When you say there's the anticipation of future funding for brownfield housing, and obviously any developers listening or strategic partners, registered providers, their ears will be pricking up to think that there might be more money for brownfield housing. Any indications as to what level of funding? No. Well, we definitely think it's coming.
Yes.
So what's your message to developers?
Keep progressing your sites, and if there are challenges in delivering your sites, then let us know.
Thank you.
I think undoubtedly the challenge comes from government to build as many homes as we need to do. This is going to be a top priority for government, so I cannot see anything change other than money coming through, particularly for the brownfield development. So the quicker we move on this, and just on that, some of the sites I've been able to visit over the last few months, one particularly just outside Bedale, where it was social homes being built there, beautiful 4-bed brand new homes, incredibly energy efficient, costing about £400 a month to rent for families in that area. That's the sort of projects that we need to be seeing, because that's how we're going to keep families and people in our region, and particularly in those areas such as Bedale, where typically you would not be able to afford to stay in that region, and then those regions lose those next generation of people who grew up in those areas. So the more of those projects we can get through, the better. Any other questions? Proposed and second. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Andy, for that. Here we go again, Andy. Item 13, York and North Yorkshire Local Visitor Economy Partnership. Andy Kerr, can I bring you in on that as well? Thank you.
Yeah, so on this one, this report's been prepared through the existing partnership of a combined authority, both local authorities and Make It York and Visit England. It was agreed back in November 2023, it says here, I think that's 2024, sorry, in my notes, but there would be a York and North Yorkshire Local Visitor Economic Partnership, and that the combined authority would take on the role of coordinating that moving forward and become the accountable body role. So this report sets out that it would involve a formal establishment of an LVET board, which would be chaired by the mayor, but the structure is very much around the delivery, remaining where it sits now, and it will continue to be done through existing organisations of Visit North Yorkshire and Make It York, and the combined authority very much just having a coordinating role and working across those. So the members of the advisory board is set out in paragraph 4.7, and then the recommendations at 2.1 are to endorse the progress made to date on the North Yorkshire Local Visitor Economic Partnership, and to agree to take on the combined authority to take on the coordinating role.
Thank you for that, Andy. I think this is another classic example of not looking to reinvent the wheel, but use the resources and the knowledge and the people that we already have in place to basically just bring it together, create a much stronger strategy, and have hopefully a stronger voice with those two partnerships working together, and obviously me chairing and having that involvement with on a much wider scale. I know the other mayors in Yorkshire particularly going to be chairing theirs as well, so we have opportunity to work collectively on the whole scope of Yorkshire as well, bring that wider investment, tourism, everything else into the wider piece of Yorkshire, not just York and North Yorkshire. So thank you for that again. Any questions on that at all? No. Yes.
Well, not a question, just to say that I think this makes an awful lot of sense. So yeah, very happy to support.
Yeah. Proposer and seconder, and move to vote. And move to the vote there. Thank you very much. Thanks, Andy. Andy, you're off the hook for a few minutes, I think now. Item 14, Combined Authority rebrand. Report of the Chief, Head of Comms, Isa Galley, please. Can you come in? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present this paper. The recommendation at item 11 is for the Combined Authority to agree the brand hierarchy and the design as it's outlined in the paper. I also wanted to thank the member of the public for their statement, and their comments on the branding, which were included, have been noted. A few key points. The current Combined Authority branding was agreed as an interim position in July 2023 and supported a representation of the multiple organisations and brands that formed the Combined Authority. The aim of this rebrand is to provide a cohesive and visually standout brand identity under which the broad functions and teams of the Combined Authority can align. So in scope for this rebrand were the statutory arrangements, and the brand hierarchy reflects that and mirrors many of the other Combined Authorities across the country. You'll see a Combined Authority brand sitting alongside a mayoral brand. The brand mark is intended to be bold and distinct and reflect our region's pride, championing our difference to the other devolved regions. The rebrand project was allocated an allowance from within the Combined Authority budget for 2024-25, and the project is on track to be delivered within that agreed allowance. The process to develop the brand included internal stakeholder engagement, working with the HR department and aligning with the development of the organisation's vision and values. And an external engagement included social media campaign, a series of focus groups with residents and businesses, workshops with our partners and our business board. Should the proposed branding be approved today, the work will progress to implement the branding across the Combined Authority platforms, publications and visual assets by the 1st of April. Happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Vice. And I think it's fair to say again, a huge amount of work by your team and those external stakeholders, been a huge amount engaged on this. And I think we have to understand the fact we are a multi-million-pound organisation, essentially, with a long-term plan and future. And having this rebrand to really help us stand out, make that point of difference, not just internally to government and investors, but obviously in that externally on that in attracting external investment into the region as well. Sorry, is what I'm trying to say. And devolution of the Combined Authority has put our region on a level, on a scope that we've never had before. So having something bold and ambitious in our rebranding, we know branding is not going to be liked by everyone. That is design, that is how it always is. But I so want to say a huge amount of work, and thanks, Isa, for putting this together. Any questions or comments on this at all from members? Would you like to come in, Councillor Cobain?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And it's interesting, isn't it? I was just reflecting on how, you know, at this meeting, we are approving millions and millions of pounds for transport, for levelling up projects, for housing, putting forward our growth plan to attract multi-millions of pounds into the region. And yet, for some reason, it's a logo that's caught the news this week instead of the hundreds of millions of pounds that the Mayoral Combined Authority is bringing in for the good of the region. But seeing as how it has made the news, I thought it would only be right for me to to make a comment. And really, I wanted to make a comment, obviously, thanks to all the work that's been done by ISA and your team. But also, I wanted to make a comment in defence of graphic designers, because I was looking at that logo and I just see it as a bunch of Ys. And then somebody else said it's like ancient Celtic sort of runes. And then somebody else today said it's like motorways. And I'm thinking, oh, so it's like the ancient and the modern. So the graphic designer has managed to capture something that was beyond my wit. And I do get a little bit fed up with business owners who employ graphic designers to design all of their logos and all their shop fronts and everything else, then complaining when a multi-million-pound business such as a combined authority spends £30,000, £31,000 on getting a graphic design together. So I set up a business. It's a public-facing business. It needs to attract people in off the street. And I thought I was brilliant, and I did all the graphics myself, all the fonts and the design and the logo, and it was all my idea. And then a business partner joined who was a graphic designer who told me how rubbish they all were, and replaced them at a very reasonable cost because it was mates rates, but replaced them with a new design that I absolutely hated. But it's been hugely successful because he understood what resonates with the public, because that's his job. And it's a good job, and we want to encourage more graphic designers to flourish in the region. And I'd like to praise them rather than say that it's just something that could be done on a computer in our 10 minutes or whatever the comment was. So yeah, no, well done on doing it. And it is important that we have a very distinctive logo, because North Yorkshire is not the same as South Yorkshire or West Yorkshire. We've got a lot more possibilities for investment here than they have. We have a lot more to offer for the future here than all of the other combined authorities in the UK. And I think it's really important that we stand out. And if one thing is for sure from all of the controversy this week, we have stood out. So maybe that 31 grand's already been repaid in advertising costs. So thanks for whoever was promoting it. And I'll be happy to support the recommendations here, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gilbert. I think it's fair to say it has got out there, and it has had some engagement, and that has been a lot of the work done for us. I will raise it with the other mayors when I see them next week, that you think we're the best and everyone else is terrible. Yeah, sure.
We're terrible, Mayor. Just, we're better than they are. Look, there's more opportunity here.
There is, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're delivering all this that we are doing today. Thank you, Isa. Any questions or further comments for Isa there on that at all? No. Can we move to a proposer and a seconder and move to a vote? And against and abstain. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much, Isa, for that. Item 14. Item 15, pay policy statement. Head of Human Resources, Sarah. Sorry.
I'm here. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so the background's covered in point 3 and beyond of my report in terms of why we have to have a pay policy. Fundamentally, it's oh gosh, my laptop's just gone off. Sorry, it's a requirement under the Localism Act, and that details what we have to articulate as part of that policy. So the policy is set out at Appendix 1 of the papers, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of points in terms of that, because the main body of the report you'll note is very similar to the one last year. So in terms of the kind of key updates from that, the first one is under point 2 around the chief officers and senior management team. There's been the removal of the corporate director for police and fire and crime, as that role is no longer within the organisation, and the inclusion of the chief fire officer and deputy chief officer. So the second point relates to that in terms of last year's pay policy had a link to the fire and rescues policy as a separate policy. This year we've combined and we've got one policy for the whole of the combined authority, including fire and rescue. And as I said, the remainder of the policy is as is from last year. So the recommendation is to approve the policy itself and the statement, and that will enable us to publish it on the website and fall within line for the localism requirements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from members on that report at all? Happy to move to a proposer and a seconder. Yeah, and to a vote. Very much. Thank you very much. Item 16, governance matters. Reports of, sorry, this will be taken by Paul Clark in the absence of the watch officer. Pete, if we could ask you to vacate the building, or just the room, in fact. In your own time. Yeah. Paul, when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Members will have all read the report that's attached, but to summarise, it's split into two parts to capture the work of the independent remuneration panel over the past year. This is the concluding part of their work. I'll refer to them as the IRP throughout for ease of reference. But yes, this is the final piece of work that the IRP has carried out for the Combined Authority under the terms of reference that it was issued round about this time last year. In the meantime, it's carried out an extended piece of work looking at the remuneration levels for the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor for Policing, Fire and Crime, and for the independent member and the independent person on the Audit and Governance Committee. So this final piece of work relates specifically to the Deputy Mayor role. So this is a role that's currently undertaken by Councillor Peter Kilbane as a member of the Combined Authority. And the function of that role is to substitute where appropriate for you, Mayor, where you're unable to attend a meeting or an engagement, so on. So the report is attached at Appendix 1. I won't go through it in its entirety, other than to signpost that it includes the methodology taken by the panel, the evidence and the benchmarking and the analysis that they went through, the meetings that they held to consider the information, and the conclusions and the recommendations that they came forward with. The recommendation of the panel is outlined in the covering report. And this is that the IRP recommend that no remuneration be paid to the Deputy Mayor at this time. However, this should be reviewed alongside a review of all other roles, including the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor for Policing, Fire and Crime, the independent and the independent person and the independent member. And after the IRP have met with the Mayor to seek his views of the role of the Deputy Mayor going forward, as the time spent on this role may increase over time. The rationale for this decision being that limited time has been spent to date on performing this role, noting that the Deputy Mayor does receive an allowance from City of York Council for performing constituent authority business. As an aside to that recommendation, Mayor, what I would add is that the panel did recognise that Councillor Kilbane himself is very active on the Combined Authority as a Combined Authority member and in his other role as a portfolio holder, but those roles are separate to the role that they're considering as part of this process. So that's all under this section. I would hand it over to members to consider the recommendation. The second part of the report relates to a related matter around the constitution of the IRP, so I can either address that now or wait until Councillor Kilbane's back in the room, whichever you prefer, Mayor.
Can we address that when Councillor Kilbane is back in the room for the second part?
That's fine.
Leave it as, yep.
So I'd leave it to members to determine this one then.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Paul on that first part? Sorry.
It makes eminent sense, doesn't it? You know, if there's evidence that a role is being performed, then it should be remunerated.
Agree on that. Yeah. So we'll second proposer on this, and then we'll bring Pete in for the second part. That's okay. Proposer for this, and I second it and vote on that. Thank you. Thank you very much, Liz. Could you just grab
I'll still be in a job then.
and Paul, if we can come on the second part, if possible. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the second part of this report relates to the constitution of the IRP itself. So as members will recall, back at the inaugural meeting last year, members agreed to establish an IRP constituting two members of each of the IRPs from the two councils to form a joint IRP for the Combined Authority. That's the way it's worked for the past year. Since that time, one member has had to drop off the panel for other commitments, and we've now received notification that another member will be standing down shortly. So that does leave us with only 2 members and some vacancies to fill. There are several options open to members about how to fill those vacancies. The first being to continue with the approach that we've had so far and seek replacement members from the 2 councils IRPs, or to recruit a combined authority IRP that will serve purely the combined authority, or to have a blend of the 2 and to seek nominations from the 2 IRPs, the 2 councils, and recruit the vacancies separately. As officers, we haven't made a recommendation as to which approach to take. It's very much a member decision. So I'll be guided by members, Chair.
Thank you very much, Paul. I would suggest we move down option A, I believe it is, which is pulling members from each constituency authority first. And obviously, if that then doesn't read the results we'd like, then we have the options then to move through B and C. If other members have any comments on that or any or adverse to that at all. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So we'll move to a proposal and second on that then, if that's okay. Yeah, and then a vote on that. Thanks very much, Paul. Thank you very much. Thanks. Item 17 is the forward plan. Paul, do you just want to touch this at all?
Members have the latest version of the forward plan as part of the agenda pack. No further items to add at this stage, but I'm aware that officers are discussing potential items of business that will be coming forward for the next meeting on the 6th of June. As and when they make it onto the forward plan, it will be circulated for members' attention.
Thanks, Paul.
Happy to take any questions if members have any.
This any question on this really, and it's just for members to just note say that we are happy with this going forward. If members are happy with this to go forward. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Paul. And agenda item 18, which is urgent business. Any urgent business at all from any members? Anything from you, Elizabeth? No. Happy? No. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That draws this meeting to the end. Just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's put so much work into this. This is probably the most detailed and largest amount of information we've had in a meeting so far. Great to see so much money going out the door into Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, and delivering to those areas that we so badly need it. So thank you very much, everyone. The next scheduled meeting is annual meeting on Friday, the 6th of June 2025 at 3 p.m. at West Offices, York. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good weekend.